Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramon, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am so fired up to have you join us today. The reason why is we dedicated this show to explore the idea of doing a servant's heart in your business and your life. Imagine you do that and approach your work and life that way, what kind of impact you create. We also created this show to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you with our incredible guest. And I've already spent 5 minutes with my guest, and I like this guy a lot already. You're going to like him too. Also, too, I want you to think about, here's your call to action. I love to do this on my show. Audience, think about how you're going to serve yourself and others today and what impact you'll create today. And the key word there is today. We always procrastinate, things go on, and I hear from people like, it's been a month and I haven't served anybody. Start it today after this great show and email me, message me, let me know how it went, because I know it's going to go well for you. And today's episode is proudly sponsored by our incredible partner, Pantheon Alliance. Would you like to be part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries? Together, they're building a thought leader platform to impact and change the world. And I always end with that because that's what I want to do with my show. Of course, I can't change the whole world. Even the election couldn't do that, but we're not going to get into politics or election. Don't worry. We're going to stay right here with psychology. And one thing my guest said was, psychology and giving it away free. And I'm paraphrasing. He'll talk more about that. But I want to talk about that because mindset is such and mental health is so bad right now with COVID and everything that's happening and election and all that. So I want to welcome to our show today, Terence. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Talk about what we talked about in the green room about giving psychology away free. Of course, I'm paraphrasing.
Sure,
talk about that.
So I'm a psychologist by training. I trained as a clinical psychologist, but I've been doing consulting work for over the past 20 years. And I think one of the great things about psychology is we learn, not exactly the secrets to happiness, but pretty close to it. And there's every reason that we should be sharing that knowledge as broadly as possible. So I like opportunities like this where, you did two things there in your intro, by the way, I wanted to call out as good psychology. One is, you talked about doing something today, right? Not a month from now, not today. Is whenever we push things out over the horizon, they never happen. You always got to keep it on this side of the horizon. People are never happy when. You're never happy when you pay your car off. You're never happy when you finish your mortgage. Or you're never happy after you get married. Happiness, all that stuff has to happen on this side of the cognitive horizon. So to your point, don't put off being a servant to others. You got to do it today. The other thing you said in there was, serving others, right? I mean, as a psychologist, I know that it is true. It is much better to give than it is to receive. There's 100 years of good social science around that. If you want to feel happy, do something nice for somebody else. It pays itself back in spades. So anyways, that sort of stuff, I know that because I went to school for it and I get to practice it. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it and share those ideas with other people to make individuals happier, more successful, and organizations happier and more successful.
Happiness is a big word. It's an easy word. Happy is a bit, but it's a big word because, and you could talk about a little bit of stats. I've heard that the more endorphins or whatever they're called, and of course, you could talk. Let's talk about that because we all know it. Like you said, when we do something that makes us happy, we feel better.
Yeah.
But how do we replicate that?
This is gonna get academic real fast. But if you want to, the Greeks had a pretty good idea about happiness, and they said happiness doesn't just come from eating a snack that you enjoy, but it comes from living a satisfied, fulfilling life. And they called it eudaimonia. I think it's eudaimonia, and it's sort of like the happiness you get from, living a good life. And it means that, you demonstrate courage, but not crazy courage. You demonstrate restraint, but not crazy restraint. And there's pretty good research around that. There's there's short-term happiness, the happiness I have from having a candy bar. There's longer-term happiness, about, seeing my children go to college, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So and I think human beings are naturally built to try to find happiness. And when we're younger, maybe a little naive, we tend to find it in those short-term bursts. And as we get older, we can find it in things that are more long-term.
Yeah. Love podcasts because we can go in any direction, and this happiness direction, it just ties into a servant's heart.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's doing business with a servant's heart, but I could say doing life with a servant's heart.
Sure.
Let's talk about the business side. I know you work with businesses, and that's kind of your happiness, what you love to do. Yeah. What could some things that entrepreneurs or business owners are listening can do to bring happy back into their business?
Okay. There's been a couple of folks who've done a really good job researching happiness in kind of an applied way, like, hey, that's interesting, but now what do I do with it? And the most potent piece of research, I'll give you the 30-second version of how they got there. But if this was a longer podcast, I'd love to take 7 hours to explain it. Is there's some emotions that do create happiness over the long term. The most powerful one is awe, AWE. The problem with awe is awe always requires some external stimuli. When you look at a mountain, when you look at the ocean, when you look at a newborn baby, that's the experience of awe. That is really good for your brain. That creates a happiness experience that will stick around for a while. The problem with awe is you gotta, have a newborn baby or go to the mountains or go to the beach. So what's the emotion that you can create that will create that same happiness? And I'm sure people have heard this before, but maybe I can be more specific about what to do with it. Gratitude really does matter. People that are grateful are far and away happier than those that aren't, and you can train yourself to do it. And there was this big research study, and they looked at how much do you have to be grateful in order for it to have a real effect on you? And the answer is not all that much. All you have to do is look at 3 good things that happen every day. So, and if you Google 3 good things, Marty Seligman, you can find this, he's the researcher. But if you'll take 5 minutes at the end of the day and write down 3 good things that happened to you today, 2 things happen. One is it resets your brain, because bad news is really sticky. Like if something bad happens, you remember it for a long period of time. If something good happens, you kind of forget about it and move on to the next thing. So it forces you to look at, a couple of really good things happened today. And then you do this for a couple of weeks, and your brain starts to look for those things to happen. And there's some interesting research around why are mildly to moderately religious people happier than those that aren't. And it's because they sort of look at what, you can either call serendipity, or religious folks would call, the Lord's presence or grace or stuff like that. And so it starts to create that effect on people. If you can do that 3 good things activity for a month, it shows a definite positive impact on your overall reported level of happiness.
You're brilliant. You're absolutely brilliant.
I'm just stealing it from other people and passing it on. Marty Seligman gets all the credit for it. You researcher out of Penn.
I'm just going to add, brilliance is when you borrow people's ideas and share it with others. That's what a servant heart does. Learn from, I'm learning from you. I'm going to share that with others. And is it, because I want to dive into this, because I'm going to do it. I think about, but is it something that has to be written down at the end of the day, or you just sit down and go, okay, this, and this happened? Is there keys to that?
Yeah. So the most impactful way to do it is to write it down and share it with somebody else. The second most impactful way is to write it down. And the third most impactful way is just to think about it. I do it every day. Like we started doing it. The place I work we're 25 psychologists. So if you want to talk about having an interesting staff meeting, we could have very interesting staff meetings. We did it like as a warm-up activity, I don't know, like a decade ago when the research came out, and a bunch of us just kept doing it. So I do it every day when I go out for my run, is I have to articulate, at least in my head, what are the 3 good things that happened yesterday. So best is write it down and tell somebody. Second best is write it down. And third is just to think about it. But they all appear to have a positive impact.
There you go, audience. You're going to pay me a lot of money because just doing this is going to change your life. I'm kidding, of course, because we're doing this. So tying into the servant's heart, because that's what we're about here, and learning is, so that leads to I do this exercise, I feel better. I do it for a month or two, and I'm feeling, I look for that. Does it make it easier for me to serve and look for that servant opportunities?
If you've ever been to a retreat, people usually do something at the opening of the retreat, some sort of icebreaker to loosen people up. We know that human brains are more effective and just better overall if you can sort of induce a little bit of happiness, put them in a good mood. So if you show up as a leader with a slightly better mood, you're going to be better to your people. You're going to be more creative. You're going to be more patient. It's going to really pay itself forward in terms of making you a better leader and someone that other folks just want to be around. So it's a great way to, you're investing a little bit in yourself, and it's going to have, a multiplier effect for the people that are around you, the people that you lead, the people that count on you.
This is a powerful tool, and it's simple. Why are more people not doing? Why are not more people doing this?
I think it's like a lot of things. Like, I know push-ups are really good for me, but I haven't done any today.
Good point.
It's a little bit of discipline, and it's hard because we're all busy people and we all have our patterns, and it's a thing that you've got to force into an already existing pattern. The research on it's compelling. Anybody out there can Google it and look at the research on it. And there's books written about it. There's Shawn Achor is another guy who's pretty good in the field. He wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage. He talks about sort of how you can use this in organizations as well. Why? I guess the answer is either people don't know about it or it's hard to fit it in. It's like eating healthy. Like, who doesn't? We all have time to eat healthy, but I don't want to tell you what I've eaten today so far.
Yeah, that was a tough question. You answered it very well, Terence. I got to give you kudos because I didn't expect that kind of answer, and it's a really good answer. So this is amazing. You're amazing. So I'm thinking I have a business. So I guess I could take just this tool, and if I do a monthly review with my employees or weekly, use this tool. Okay, Joe Smith, what are 3 good things that happened this week?
It works as well in business as it does in your personal life. You can use it to start your staff meeting. Sometimes people are leaders. Like, if you're in a leadership role, what happens to you is you only get the problems that no one else has solved. So when you're a leader, you're constantly seeing sometimes the worst parts of your business or your organization because nobody else has gotten to those problems, and you sort of get lulled into this belief that things are worse than they really are. So getting leaders to focus on what's working in their organization, if it's a for-profit business, not-for-profit business, just an organization, a group that gets together, focusing on what's working right can be can be very powerful because we get so caught up in what's working wrong.
Yeah, I could see doing this could be a game changer for businesses. Really could be culture, environment, all that great stuff, which, nowadays, because everybody's on edge, like, okay, who's going out of business today, or when are interest rates going to go back, all that we deal with that's on everyday news and media. Let's switch gears a little bit because your leadership is a big thing for you. When you hear the word servant leader, what comes to mind for you?
There's a landmark book in the late 70s about servant leadership, which I think was a really good starting point for anybody that hasn't read that book. It's a great read. And it's sort of, the visual for me is it inverts the pyramid. The leader is not on the top of the pyramid. The leader's on the bottom of the pyramid. He's there to provide support for other people. I like the idea that good leaders take problems out of the way for the people below them. You make it easy for them to do their job very, very well. I also feel like there's not in a paternalistic way, is there's a duty to care for. These are people that are going to spend more time with you than they may spend at home. And you have a bit of an unwritten duty to take care of them, even if it's hard. So those are the first things that come to mind for me.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Very good. Productivity is a big part of what you do that I've read. Companies have to be productive or they're going to go out of business. Just really is. It's not simple like that, but it is what happens. How do you do, especially with your psychology background, how do you help with that with businesses?
There's a question, do more engaged employees make better organizations, or do better organizations create more engaged employees? It looks like the arrow goes from more engaged employees make for better businesses. So if you want more productivity, it's about creating a more engaging and positive organization for the person to come to work. Doesn't mean that they're always going to like it. Doesn't mean that they're never going to get critical feedback. But the directional arrow, the causal arrow, clearly goes from engagement to performance, not the other way around. So if I think it's easy for leaders to get stuck on, I got to push harder. Sometimes you have to push differently. It really is the most engaged organizations that get the most done. When you think about the bosses that you've had, that you've worked the hardest for, it's probably the ones that you like the most, not necessarily the ones that rode you the hardest.
Yeah, no, it's definitely likability is huge. But then you go, all right. So that leads to the question I love asking, guys like you that deal with leadership in business. So the flip side of that, you've got this staff and you've got one or two bad apples. Mm-hmm. How do you do that and stay productive? How do you handle that? Excuse me.
If you look at organizations in even really good performing organizations, 10 to 15% of the staff are actively disengaged. Any organization of any size is going to have some part of the population where things aren't going well for them. And it could be it's the wrong fit for them. They're going through a personal time that's really tough for them. So, I like reminding leaders that it's not your responsibility to make sure that everybody is at 100%. It's just mathematically likely 10 to 15% of your staff is going to be actively disengaged or, creating negative value. And I think that's where, you see in privately held organizations, you can have more patience with that because maybe that the person's long-term they're going through something. I think in general, it's important to be kind, not necessarily nice. A kind person tells me I have spinach in my teeth. The nice person maybe won't. And addressing the performance issue, letting them know that you've noticed and you're concerned is probably the right place to start that. A lot of times people are worried that if they bring it up, it's going to make it worse. It won't make it worse. Addressing the issue up front and, over time, determining if that person's presence in the organization is really right for them either. We've oftentimes worked in places that weren't good for us, and we had a boss good enough to tell us that was the case. I worked for someone overseas, and he said, in cases like that, you've got to pay them, thank them, and tell them goodbye.
Yeah, that's a servant's heart. I love that you said that. That's why I asked the question, because people are like, well, and I've done that. Nice and kind is the perfect definition. I was being nice, and I'm going to borrow that as well. See, audience, as a host, I get a benefit because I get to learn from these incredible guests. So kind, because you're right, you could be kind and say, here's nice is everything's good. So kind would be, hey, here's some things we see. Let's work together to fix them. As a leader, you work together. You don't just say fix it.
Yeah.
Powerful.
I'm worried for you. I'm worried for you. Like you've been doing so well here, but now I'm worried. What's going on?
Conversations and communication sound like a big part of this as well.
Work is easy. It's the people that are hard, right?
Yeah, that's true. Regards to entrepreneurs that don't have a team, how's this all developed for them?
When you look at the psychology of entrepreneurship, they're amazing in that they have a high tolerance for failure. You pick your favorite entrepreneur. I like Walt Disney. I think he went bankrupt 3 times before he hit it big. Maybe he only went bankrupt twice, but they just have this amazing resiliency and this ability to externalize some of their failures because maybe the market timing was bad or, they ran out of capital. Those aren't their faults. The thing I've seen oftentimes with entrepreneurs is being resilient in the face of those failures and realizing that it's probably going to be a part of your entrepreneurial journey. If you meet people that are serial entrepreneurs and, they're in their 40s and they're in their 5th company, something like that, they'll talk about that. So for the people that are newer on their entrepreneurial journey, I'd try to inoculate them against, you're going to have some of those failures. That's not about you. That's just the nature of the beast. And also finding other people to be around. Being an entrepreneur can be very lonely because you are chief cook and bottle washer. So finding those organizations where you can meet the other folks that are going through the same stuff as you, those affinity groups, I think, are really powerful for entrepreneurs.
And I love that too, because entrepreneur, here's a great lesson, that, and there's no competition, it's collaboration. If you're both business coaches, collaborate. He might do something different than you, or she might do something different. I preach that all the time when I mentor business. I love that you said that. He's showing how smart he is. Let's stop. I've got so many notes, probably more notes I've ever written. Technology, we're coming to the end here. Technology and all this, how do you see that it fits in? What's the future look like?
I don't know if you've heard about this thing called artificial intelligence. It's funny when we go to professional conferences for applied psychology, like half of the sessions are AI is going to change how you practice, and the other half are how AI ruins everything. We are right at the precipice of figuring out how that is. My hope is that it makes our job, the mundane parts of our jobs, faster and easier. Right now, you can't use, my opinion, you shouldn't be using AI tools for selecting employees. The problem is that while we're really good at measuring personality, that sort of stuff, when you ask what makes a good employee, there's a lot of noise in that output data. So if X predicts Y, sometimes we're not good at describing that Y. Well, if you plug that Y into an AI equation and say predict that Y, it's not going to be all that accurate, but someday it might be. So I'm very cautious about those technology tools that I think are right now being a little bit over applied for selecting. That said, I mean, AI makes a great set of meeting summaries. If I plug in my notes from a day-long retreat into AI, I don't have to take an hour to write a good summary. I take 5 minutes to edit what AI pumps out. So yeah, that's my hope, is it makes those parts of our jobs faster, but there's still the human element to help, especially on the selection side.
So one of the best answers, mundane and faster, because I call it human. If you're doing a human-based activity, AI should stay completely out of it. Keep it human to human, which is psychology. That's what you're doing. You're dealing with humans. So I love that. Again, another note, mundane. Let's do a little improv. We're getting to the end here. Let's have some fun. You're a fun guy. By the way, he plays the ukulele. I'm not going to have him play it, or ukulele. I keep saying it wrong. There it is. He's going to prove it. Taught me all the. There's the ukulele. Reason I bring it up is, you know what? Successful people do multiple different things. I don't have to play a ukulele, but it's really good for the mind, isn't it? To have that maybe hobby or whatever word that you call it.
Exercise is a part of your brain that doesn't get good exercise otherwise.
Interesting. Okay.
It's also a great distraction. If you look at the things that people want to do when they take a break from work, you can't play a musical instrument and think about work. You can't hit your golf ball well while you're thinking about work. You sort of want something that's going to require that kind of attention to really take you away from the things that stress you out.
You're an absolute blessing. My gosh, I got to bring you back. You've got to come back if you're willing.
Happy to come back. By the way, if you just go to graduate school, eventually you learn stuff. That's how I got here. So
you hear it first. Graduate school, and you learn all this. You could be a Terence Bostic. It'll work out well. So let's have fun, Lav.
Okay.
Let's improv. You've got a reservation at a restaurant, table of 4. You're going to sit in one of the chairs. Who would you invite, dead or alive? Why would they be invited, and what food would you order?
Wow. I'd put Fred Rogers next to me from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah.
I would put, let's see here. You know who I hear? I have a friend of a friend who knows Michelle Obama and says that she's an excellent conversationalist. So I'd put her there. And dead or alive is okay?
Dead or alive.
It's gonna get nerdy. I'd go Marcus Aurelius. He was a Stoic, and sort of the founder of Stoic thought. Stoics, by the way, weren't about like keeping yourself from pleasure. They were about finding happiness. They had the idea of eudaimonia that I referenced earlier. I think he'd be fun to hang out with. You see him briefly at the beginning of oh gosh, it's what movie is it?
Gladiator.
It's Gladiator. Yeah, that's right. You see him at the beginning. Thank you. What would I order? I like Thai food, and I think Thai food is like a good mixture of like I can really enjoy it, but I don't feel guilty about eating it. I'd love General Tso's chicken, but that's fried chicken. I think I'd order Thai food. Wow.
I might join you because I just tried it for the first time. I love it. It's the spicy stuff. And here's interesting audience. We're gonna promote something here. I read the Daily Stoic every day.
Really?
I'm a huge Stoic guy. Seneca.
Look at you. Oh yeah. Now we're friends.
Yeah, we're live, recorded, whatever you want to call it, friends. If you haven't, Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic. It's just few paragraphs every day. It's changed my life. My perspective on death is completely different. I don't want to go there. But I
just pulled it up right now. Memento Mori, the remembrance of death.
Memento Mori.
That's a great. Can I just take 10 seconds and explain what that is?
Go for it. Yeah.
If you're not sure how important something is to you, take it out of existence for 10 seconds. If you're not sure how much you love your children, vanish them from your brain for 10 seconds and sit with that feeling. That will tell you how much they really mean to you.
Wow.
If we don't remember, the remembrance of death is what it translates into. That's an advanced technique, but I mean, it works, right?
It's easy to do. I mean, it's advanced because I didn't know about it. To me, I could stop and, I like Terence. I took you out of my mind for 10 seconds. I still like Terence. Okay, he's good.
If Terence vanishes from the planet, oh man, I wouldn't like that.
Hey, it's a great. This has been awesome.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. You're great to do this. I can see why you do this. You're awesome at it.
I appreciate it. Now people listening are going, I gotta talk to Terence. How can they support you and connect with you?
They can find me through the website, cmaconsult.com. I'm on LinkedIn, but if you go to cmaconsult.com, there's a web portal there and you can find me. I'm T Bostic at CMA Consult.
There you go. Easy peasy. And as I always say at the end, the call to action, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's not because I want more subscribers. It'd be great. But here's the power of a podcast. I think people aren't understanding the message of this is getting out. You resonate with this. Guess what you can do? You could be a servant's heart. Take this link, YouTube link, which will go on YouTube first, and share with somebody that might need something about stoicism or about psychology or these three, the tip of three good things. Because that's what we do. And that's why I love a podcast, because I share links all the time. Hey, watch this. I think you get something from it. And then connect with them or have your friend or family member connect with them. And you've helped them. That's what all the Servant's Heart does. And me and Terence, as always, want to thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.